had butchers coming over, and their wives bought them there for a joke. Of course, it was their wives and metal butchers, but anyway, we'll move that on. That's another story. Burly old sort of butchery men coming in. Oh, don't eat meat. Where's your steakhouse? And I said, look, in truth, there's a steakhouse right below us. If this doesn't feed you, if this doesn't fill you up, then I will personally buy you one. And of course, their portions went through the roof, and this they went through, and they couldn't walk out the door, and they loved it.
Here we are, Simon. We're doing this.
How are you, mate? You well?
I'm doing great. How are you? What time? 7:00 in the morning? You seem very chipper.
I am chipper. I'm a morning person. It's nice actually. I like early mornings. I spent my life doing hospitality, so it's quite weird that I actually have found myself becoming more of a morning person. But I'm here. I'm happy, and I'm ready to chat.
Yeah. What is your morning usually like when you get up?
Well, we have a golden retriever that puts her nose up against your face and nuzzles in to try to wake you up. So that's kind of the starting point. My partner's a yoga teacher as well, so she's up at sort of 5 o'clock to go teach classes at 6 and whatever. So it's also forced morning person, but get so much done. Like we take Lentil. Our dog's name is Lentil, by the way.
I love his name. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know.
Lentil. Oh, that's
Lentil,
awesome.
the golden retriever. So she's obsessed with swimming, as golden retrievers are. So we live kind of close to the water. So we get up really early. We get a coffee from the local cafe, walk her down to the ocean, and she just goes nuts for an hour. That's kind of it. It's kind of something to look forward to as well.
Yeah, what a wonderful morning routine ritual.
Yeah.
That sounds lovely.
Right. Love it very much.
Good.
So.
Good. Well, I cannot wait to dive in. I mean, there's just so much that you are involved with and so many things you're passionate about. And I, first of all, just want to say thank you for making the kitchen a fun place to be. and literally every time I go to your Instagram and I see what was the one that really got me. I think I had to scroll down a little bit, but the eggplant steak with caper Caesar dressing. What?
Oh yeah, that was fun.
That looks amazing.
I should do that again.
Oh,
we just got a bunch of eggplants actually, so maybe I'll make that. Oh, thanks for reminding me. That was good.
You're welcome. Yeah. Well, before we dive in, I would like to kind of just get a sense of who you are, like beyond the bio and all the accomplishments and the trips and the travel and the nonprofits and all the things you're doing. Kind of behind all that and behind your bio, who is Simon? Who are you? Like, what does that mean to you? You can take that however you want.
Yeah, okay. I'm an average person who did average at school, who was obsessed with sport, a bit of a jock, and who just loves trying to be joyous. That's a really good question. Just a bit of a chiller, but I'm definitely a jock from way back that no one really knows about. Like I am sort of like Adidas pants, rugby jumper, sports 5 days a week, kind of thing. Yeah. And that's kind of gone by the wayside now. Yeah. So I used to play a lot of sports, but really fell out of the love of it because of here's a lentil. Fell out of love of it just because of the people around. So I just sort of stopped. But yeah, that's it, I reckon. And then holistically, I think in a past life, I probably was maybe a yoga teacher or lived in an ashram or something that my partner's doing. So I think there was that slow transition into that. I don't know, but yeah, I'm going to have to think about that a little bit more and give a secondary answer at the end of the chat.
Okay, fair enough. Do you do yoga now with your partner?
Yeah, so she teaches constantly, but I'll do it sort of a few times a week to keep myself nimble.
Got to be nimble to do all the other things you're doing.
That's right.
All right. Well, how do you feel now? That was kind of the serious question about a little lightning round of fun little questions. to kick us
Go,
off.
let's do it.
Okay. All right. 3 daily habits or rituals that you attribute to optimizing your health and wellness.
Coffee. Mushroom extract tablets like lion's mane and that sort of stuff. They're amazing, and B12 and like vitamin B's.
Got it.
So
Okay.
they're early morning stuff. Sorry, go on. That's
Yep.
lightning
No.
round.
Yeah. No. And it can be as lightning as we want it to be. Do you listen to music while you're in the kitchen? And if so, what type of music do you listen to?
When I remember, yes, and I listen to things like the Teskey Brothers. I don't know if anyone knows the
Oh,
Teskey Brothers, but yeah, they're
I just got introduced to the Teskey. I was just at the Austin
uh
City Limits Music Festival,
oh,
and
no
Teskey Brothers were
way.
there. Yes. Oh my
So
gosh, they're
Georgia
amazing.
Georgia used to work with them when they were back in the old days.
That's
Yeah,
so
so they used to
wild.
play at her cafe when she was running a pizza joint in the country of Australia, like country Victoria.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
so
so
we got
great.
engaged at their house too, which is kind of funny. So it's a little fun. So we love them.
How cool. I mean, just so soulful
Oh my
and
God,
yeah.
breaks me.
Oh my God. If you guys don't know Teskey Brothers, gotta check them out.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, right. Okay. A quirk or fun fact that most people don't know about you besides the jock thing, because we already said that.
I have a really far out. They're getting super deep. I have really stretchy skin. So like, if we want an example, this is called a weenus. This elbow skin is called a weenus, and it's really stretchy. People might lose their breakfast if they're listening to this at that sort of stage. So I won't show you, but that's a fun fact. That's my party trick.
It's called a what? Well, I
A
didn't know this.
weenus.
A we.
Yeah, yeah. Your elbow skin is called your weenus.
Why that made me laugh so much. Okay. All right. Good to know.
It's a
I
time
learned
of day.
something new. All right. Okay. You get to gift one piece of kitchen equipment to every household in the world. What equipment do you gift everybody?
Oh, Solid Technic pans, and I'm not being sponsored. Solid Technic pans are the Australian-made cast iron, wrought iron pans. You'll give them to your grandchildren, your great grandchildren. They will last forever. So
Okay.
that is something that I'll give them because they're sexy too. They look hot. I love them. Oh,
All right. I'm going to have to find those and put the link in the
yeah, I'll
show
send
notes
you a
because
link.
you just sold that. Okay. Please do. Okay.
Yeah.
It's your last day on earth. Are you having tea or a cocktail? Maybe a Gibson. What type of tea are you drinking and how are you preparing it? Like
Okay,
one of
so
those.
yeah, I'll drink because I'm a tea person as well. I study tea with Dilma, which is a tea. I don't know if you have it in America, but it's a single origin smoked tea done by Dilma. It's pretty fantastic, but it's smoked using cinnamon bark. So
Nice.
it's like a Lapsang Souchong or like a Russian caravan, but using single origin Sri Lankan tea, and they smoke it using Sri Lankan cinnamon. It's insane. So that's my tea. And then cocktail wise, a Gibson, I think you just nailed it. Like I would have a Gibson in a heartbeat. Sure. Give me all of those all the time.
All right, cool. All right. And I know we're going to get to your East Australian tour of sustainability, which I can't wait to hear about, and the
Yeah.
Sri Lanka thing. I can't wait to get into all that. Before we do, though, I do want to kind of start with your backstory.
Yeah.
I know you started in the hospitality industry at a young age. Can you share about that and how that path kind of eventually led you to be so passionate now about sustainable eating and zero waste cooking?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of I followed it. My brother worked in a kitchen as a dishy at a bakery. I don't know how old he was, but I started at 15. I took over his role because he went and got a real job and grew up. And so I started scrubbing sugar off the bottom of pans and making donuts. And gosh almighty, it's like those things that they say if you want to eat at McDonald's, don't work at McDonald's kind of thing. You know, it's like that.
Right. Yeah.
In the old days, obviously we don't really eat there. I don't know if you have the plant-based ones there at all. But anyway, so the same thing with kind of bakeries, like old school bakeries. If you want to love a bakery, don't go work at the bakery because you really start to understand the ins and outs of it all. But I did for a couple of years, and I really all I've ever done is hospitality. That's literally everything I've done. So I started there at 15. Worked there for a couple of years at I think we started at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., you know, on weekends and stuff like that at 15 years old, which is kind of crazy. Getting paid nothing. And then I moved on to like a pizza joint, which was a really nice little local pizza place down the road from us. Then I started studying my master's. Started studying hospitality and tourism. And then I got into a hotel. Then I got into a pub. and that pub got me into a cocktail bar, and that cocktail bar got me into another one, and then I went into London and worked there. So it was this sort of like natural progression of really enjoying making things, being creative in this hospitality world, loving talking to people, and just a bit of showmanship. I think at a young age you kind of love this sort of idea of being quasi famous, you know, like it's people come to see you, they want to hang out with you, you want to talk to them, you give them a good time, you're showing them a great, you know, showing them all the fun that they could be having, right? So I think I became quite addicted.
And well, it's interesting because earlier you had said when you were kind of trying to come up with my very first tough question, but you were saying I try to bring joy or something like that, and to me, just in the little bit I've known you and from what I can tell, like you don't need to try. You really embody that very well.
Thank you. It's so lovely. I mean, I don't know whether it's now just ingrained fully in my life, but in saying that, if you meet my parents, my folks are pretty lively, and so is my brother. So I think it's genetic, thank goodness. It was luck of the draw, and I really loved it. And I think, just to finalize that sort of answer to that question, I think I became really afraid, and I probably still am now, but I can work out where I can go in a way, give or take. But I think you become quite afraid of leaving, which is hard in hospitality. It's very much a vortex, because it's all you ever know, and you don't back yourself for anything else other than knowing how to make a drink or work in hospitality or whatever, being a chef or whatever that could be. And so there's stages where you probably do want to leave. When I did, I went to become a travel agent, and I was there for 6 months, and I got fired because I sucked. It's kind of like
why did you suck?
Well, this is funny blaming game, but the manager was an atrocious human being and a very nasty human. So where everyone sort of sits quietly and lets it happen, the person in hospitality tells the manager to go stuff themselves, and as a result gets fired, which is fair enough.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I got it.
Anyway, so that's right. So that was 6 months of a pain, but it was quite useful because it helped me work out my travels around the world, which I'm sure we're talking about soon.
Yes.
But anyway, so it's this vortex of like sucking you in and keeping you there, because it's such a family, it's such an amazing group of people. And if you accept it and love it, you will be loved and accepted so much as well. And if you don't, it's probably not a bad thing, because you can pull yourself away when you're ready.
All right. So, most of what's out there in terms of hospitality and these bakeries and all that are very far from plant-based.
Yeah.
When
so
when did you start making that shift, making those connections, starting to feel, drawn towards that side of things?
I actually think really it was my it's my wife now. I keep calling her partner, but I suppose it's wife. But Georgia, let's call her Georgia because she's got a name. Georgia is probably the one that started me on that journey. That was about 7 years ago now. So I really was always questioning it in a way, but again was sitting by the simplicity, the ease of cooking, meat and 3 veg, which is a very Australian, dish. It's like whatever meat, peas, potatoes, beans, something like that. It sits on the plate. That's kind of it. But and that's sort of what we all grew up with, and what our grandparents and mothers and fathers all cooked us. But George's brother was vegan, and George was veggie vegan, and George's mum was vegan out of the fact that the kids were, because they lived together and stuff like that, so it just was easier to buy only veg. And what I actually found, and I think it became the background of hospitality, was this sort of actually ended up being a challenge. And I was like, oh, this is quite challenging. And it's not necessarily challenging for me, because I've got 3 other people who know how to cook it, and I can just rely on them. But it's challenging for everyone else, and that's kind of fun. So not only did I jump on board the vegan thing with great love and enjoyment of trying new foods and new dishes, and taking the things that are meat based and transferring them into non-meat based stuff, because it's not that, a lot of it's not that difficult. Some of it is, a lot of it's not. But it was really exciting to try and get other people to do it, and not in a forceful way. I'm not saying like, you need to be vegan. I'm gonna open up a smokehouse that smokes only plants, and you can come along if you like. And 60-70% of the people weren't vegan, and they loved it, and they went home full, and it was really, really great. So these kinds of little ticks sort of was what made it even more exciting and sort of like something that I wanted to do, other than just I'm doing it because of animals slash plants slash climate, animals slash climate slash health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you started down that and started just kind of, and you bring so much fun to it, right? Is that something that you do with intention,
Yeah.
or is that just who you are? And like, so of course you're going to bring it.
I think I was born to yell. It's like the Bruce Springsteen. What is it? Born to run. I was born to yell. I find a lot of cooking shows really dull. I find a lot of there's lacking information and there's lacking joy, and all those put together kind of makes me say, well, there has to be something better than this. There has to be something where we can produce really good food with great excitement, with great information. So we're not waxing lyrical about plants and then going, oh, actually, I don't know what it means though. And that's another thing. It's like, well, what does it mean for you to serve mushrooms so much? What is it about them that is really important? You're like, well, space of use of water, vitamin D, their outer exoskeleton, which holds a lot of moisture and then can be released, and rah, 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 rah. So all these sorts of things is kind of just adds on to it. And I want people to sort of be engaged and enjoy the food. So if I can get them to enjoy me, then hopefully the food is almost secondary in a way.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that the
Yeah.
case with so many things, right? It's in
Yeah.
What was that? I was listening to somebody and they were talking about just being so intentional about connection, right? About
Mm.
in terms of prioritizing where they're going to spend their time in their business. And they were like, you know what? The majority of my time is spent building relationships,
Yeah, that's
because
right.
it's the people, it's the connections, it's
Yeah.
not the daily to-dos that you have on your to-do list, right? That are going to help grow and inspire and invite
So
people
true.
to, be a part of your world. So,
It's so true. I completely agree with that. And it's kind of like the world is like a bunch of, of Lego pieces, and they all start building in certain areas of a town. But as they get higher, they start spreading wider, and then they start connecting at the top part. So you don't need to know their childhood. You don't need to know their basics at the bottom of where they started or where you decided to start this section. But when you start to get to the top, they bind, and they bind
yes,
quite strongly. You know what I mean?
yes,
And they lean on each
yes.
other. And all these connections can just jump and hop across all the space, all the bridges to meet each other. And and I also feel that plant-based people are those kinds of people. They're really open. They're compassionate, because it's not just plants that they're into necessarily. It's climate, or it's we just had the referendum that everyone voted no, which is heartbreaking in Australia, for the First Nations people to have a voice in Parliament. Um, the majority voted no, which is atrocious. It's broken us, I think. But people who are usually plant-based focused or have that compassionate side of them, they would have voted yes. So you have this sort of or it's about equal rights, or it's about women's rights in equal pay, or it's about the balance of power, or it's about people who are plant-based aren't just plant-based. I
Mm-hmm.
just feel as though they are majority of the time, definitely. It's not everyone, but it's most people. Are completely holistic in all those sides.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, and I mean, I guess this was not in the plan, but where are you in terms of, I mean, you're traveling the world, and I will just kind of jump ahead here. First,
Yeah.
yeah, in terms of just what's most inspiring you right now in terms of being impactful, because that's obviously like being fun and engaging is one
Mm.
thing, and then you've also, there's a passion in what you just mentioned about justice and
Mm.
sustainable, like all of those pieces that obviously mean
Mm.
a lot to you, and you're dedicating so much of your life to those. Do you want to talk, should we just jump forward a little bit and talk
Yeah,
about
let's do it.
what's most
Let's do it.
inspiring you right now and what you're up to?
Yeah, so at the moment we've just moved to a little town in Australia, in Melbourne. Sorry, we've just moved to a little town in Victoria called Geelong. It's the second largest town in Victoria, but it's only 350,000 as opposed to what 6 million that Melbourne has thereabouts. And but we're the fastest growing city we call ourselves a city. We're the fastest growing city in Australia. We're on a train line to Melbourne. It's only an hour to get there. We're on the beach. Everything's quite cheap in the way of housing prices, which is obviously a huge thing all over the world. Um, but and I'm getting somewhere with this. What's really wonderful about this is that we've found ourselves a community that really accepts people, or that we want to get involved in, I think is a better way of putting it. So we came here and we had our wedding and honeymoon. We're like, right, we'll save for that. So that's been about a year. We've just come back a few weeks ago, and we're like, right, now is the time to just dive straight into to this town, to really belonging and being part of all the community. So I work closely with a company or a not-for-profit called Give Where You Live Foundation, the Feed Geelong appeal, and they are all about the hungry mouths and the families that are just living below the poverty line, and even not, like, who just have too many expenses because they've got 3 kids and they've got 2 jobs and they can't have that sort of constant income to buy food. And so it's a food relief system based out of Geelong, cuts out that sort of fear factor of people feeling sort of self-conscious about going to get food, and opens up the doors to a really wonderful community. We just joined them at an Afghan feast, which is a couple 5, I think it was 5 Afghani women who had migrated from Afghanistan, whose husbands are still over there, I think. One of them or 2 of them were, and they're waiting for their visas to come through. And they're creating food that is from their homeland, and they're creating a community that's from their homeland. And that's just the most divine thing. This place called Common Ground, which is a not-for-profit farm that grows food for not only their little cafes and for people to come and do it like the Afghan women, but also anyone, and give it out to people who are in need. So working closely with all these people and feeding people and making people feel welcome and loved is something that I'm super passionate about. And there's definitely crazy avenues to go down that with, because, just to do a little sidetrack, and then it'll come back in a second, is this a company called Farmers Pick, and they do ugly veg boxes, right? So they go to all the farmers that, I'm sure you've heard this a million times by other people, but farmers that, would normally produce food for, let's say, a large supermarket, doesn't hold the shape of a circular potato, and so they have to throw it into landfill. Now, Farmers Pick stops that from happening and saves so much food. So this is the other section that I'm really passionate about, is sort of fighting food waste side of things and sustainability. And so saving all that food and using Farmers Pick stuff for myself to then take it to the Afghan people or to the community and cook for them. So this weekend on Sunday, we've got to cook for all of their for an open day for the farm where the Give Where You Live Foundation is based. And so I'm going to go and use a pizza oven. I'm going to cook for everyone there and make this beautiful sort of like meal to bring the community together, and get people to have takeaway containers so they can take it home, and really supporting a local community. And I feel sometimes that, especially in the world that you and I are in, we find our eyes, and not that this is a bad thing, but we find our eyes and our ideals so broad that we end up doing none of it because it's so broad. And we're trying to find the people who is going to help us get there because it's so broad. But in reality, if everyone does something locally in their community, you're going to find that community will grow beautifully. And there comes those Lego building blocks, and we start to find each other later on down the track in that really broad view that we had before. And finally, we're connected. So at the moment, right now, my biggest passion is fighting food. And it's always been fighting food waste, but it's this community. It's fighting food waste with this community, feeding everyone here, making sure this community is a soulful, divine, loving, all-encompassing, great place, because it really is. But there's people there who aren't there, and it would be naive of me to think that everything over here is great when it's not. And so where can I find myself? Where can I dive myself into to help fix the problem, or just be a little solution, or a little set of ears, or a plate of food, or whatever?
Wow, you explained that so well, because I think so many people listening to this podcast, I mean, people that are listening to this podcast care. They care about making a difference, right? They care about their own health, but the health of
you did that.
The
You brought those people in to listen and made them love it, and it's that's the community, right? You created that.
Yeah.
Your reach is way further than mine, but it's
oh my God, are you kidding? No, but I'm just, what I'm saying is, and thank you for that, I'm blushing, because it's that that means everything to me, and building community, like you're saying. And but I think people do, like, it's like, wow, these problems are so large. And who am I, and what can I even do about them? And And we forget, I think, too, and tell me what you think in this age of the digital age, right, with the social media, and like we're seeing problems everywhere, and the problems just seem so huge in those ways that we forget that we're still communities, and we're still local, and we're still people right around us, right down the street, that are hungry and are suffering. And so thank you for that reminder and for sharing that. It's a big deal. It's really big deal.
It is, because you think about it, you try to care for 350,000 people, or you sort of focus on that as being part of your community. That's a lot of people. It's not, in comparison to what New York or London or Melbourne or whatever it is, it's small, but it's more than one person can handle. So, get a group of us together and it's fantastic.
Beautiful. Can you talk a little bit more about zero waste and in general, and what people might not know that would be helpful for them?
Yeah. I love to think, I love to think that people in the plant-based world really understand zero waste a lot more than the majority of others do, because, it's just sort of like cut this off and throw it out, it's done. But for me, zero waste, it doesn't necessarily it's funny. Okay, so zero waste for me is obviously the idea of like zero waste food and zero waste eating, along with, it can transition into clothing, it can transition into, whatever it could be, right? Like at zero wasting, you could recycle, reuse until really everything is in tatters, falling apart, and goes into compost. But ideally, in my environment, zero waste is taking an ingredient, using it as much as it possibly can, and then taking that ingredient and then putting that into compost at the end of the day, or into the soil, or it's being consumed. So, and I think there's again a big lack of education in our environment, America, UK, Canada, Australia, that sort of stuff, where we really haven't had some of us haven't had the real understanding of true poverty, right? And knowing that, like, in the South, there's the food of the Creole is just an amazing sort of representation of using very minimal ingredients and creating unbelievable amounts of flavor and food and potential, right? And again, this sort of side of things, it's kind of like, well, oh, hold on, we don't need this, so we're going to throw it out, right? And that's just sort of like this privilege, which is really, it's not a privilege, it's stupidity more than anything, right? Like what it does, the CO2, what it does to the soil, and all these sorts of things is not great when it goes to landfill. So in saying all that, it's like, if I have a pumpkin and the pumpkin has a skin, what can I do with that pumpkin skin? And it's edible. Like, it's actually edible. You can cut it off, you blanch it, you then chuck it through some sort of spices, whatever your favorite spices are, and then you roast it until it's crispy, and you use that as a crisp, and it goes crispy and it's delicious. Now, banana skins, I know that's a bit of a thing that still struggles with me, with my mind, to try and get around it. But you peel it, you take off the little white pith, and then you get 2 forks and you scrape it until it's into pulled banana skins, into like shreds. And then you cook that into a southern barbecue style spice or barbecue sauce, and you use pulled banana skin burgers. And they're actually delicious. Like, there's nothing wrong with them. They're absolutely edible. And it is a little, really creamy coleslaw on top, very soft bun, bish bash bosh. Your happy days, So it's this sort of idea of like really doesn't even be that educated, just learning some fun facts about things, and working around it, and focusing on not buying too much food, knowing that your seconds is going to be leftovers the next day. Dinner for lunch is great for me. Like, I love that. And buying what you need, buying only what you need. And that's again a big thing, because as we get to the stage that even though majority of our agriculture goes towards agriculture goes towards feeding animals, there is enough food there for everyone. No matter what the facts are, it's doable. But the problem is we buy so much. So I'm sure people have said this on your podcast before, but in Australia, a third of your food is from the farmers goes to landfill. So a third of the food that they grow and produce goes to landfill because of whatever reason. It looks ugly, right? It's just ridiculous. A third of the supermarket's food goes to landfill, into the bin, and then a third of household food goes to landfill. And as you put those all together, and it's a huge, huge problem. So small steps of consciousness is just, I guess, the way to go about it. It's really hard to teach people to be zero waste or to talk about zero waste if they don't really know what that is, or how to do it. You need to have some form of culinary skill. You need to have some sort of maybe kitchen confidence is all you need more than anything. I don't think you need culinary skill. You can tear things up with your fingers and just roast it and it'll be grand. But and the wanting to change or the wanting to try new things. But that's kind of where my role comes into play, and it's just to show that we can use everything. You can use a whole cauliflower, you can use a whole broccoli, you can use the leaves of so and so. The beetroot, you can make collard greens out of the stems and the root and the leaves of the beetroot, and the beetroot itself, you can make a beetroot risotto. So things like that. Like there's heaps of options, but it's not being afraid of it.
Yes, and I guess especially for people like me, I live in a condo. I don't have really a
What's a
complex
condo?
A condo. Oh, what's a condo? Are you asking what a condo is?
An apartment.
Oh, condominium. Yes, like an apartment.
Condominium.
Yeah, an apartment.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, condo for short. And so we don't like. I'm still trying to figure out some of these
what
things.
That is.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a house. We had a compost and we had all those things growing up. But now in Miami, and I don't really have. I'm looking at maybe the lettuce grows to grow my own lettuce, but so it's looking at what you can do and some of the things that create waste every day. I would think like banana peels. If you're somebody who eats banana peels, eats bananas and has banana peels every day, to have something to do with those foods that you already know that you're going to have that waste daily would be a great kind of first step. And one thing that I do recommend to my clients, and something that I consider leftovers, instead of like people are like, I don't know what to snack on, like healthy snack. Well, I talk about your leftovers from a meal can make a perfect snack. And so then we're not buying the packaged snacks and all those the waste that comes along with them. If we just shift our minds, like most of this is about a little bit of mindset shift, right? If totally. I can, what's a snack anyway? It's a small meal. Like you just hungry, but you don't want to eat a full meal. So what if you ate the healthy leftovers from the meal you had the night before for your snack? And so a lot of this is right. Like just.
I mean, I think I did this one where it's, when I was really sort of being quite, I just really wanted to stop wasting food. It was my snacks was always, it had to have one ingredient. It couldn't be any more than one ingredient, right? And so that, and I kind of think that works because you think, okay, well, how does that make sense? Well, it's an apple, or it's or it's a peach, or it's or it's a mango, or it's a banana, or it's a pear, or it's I don't know, a tomato, whatever. So all these things that your snacks could only be one ingredient. And what it does is it stops buying crappy food. It stops putting the plastics into the landfill because you don't eat that pack of chips or the dip or whatever it's going to be. So that kind of thing is always fun. And the best thing about that is you sort of really remove yourself from sugar, like unnatural sugars or processed sugars. And so the peach or the mango, the sweetness of that is like mind-blowingly good. Like everything is better because of it. I don't know if you ever were. I mean, in hospitality, everyone smokes. In the old days, I used to smoke, and it's like when I stopped smoking and I started eating food, I was like, "Whoa, hold on, this actually tastes like this." And you're like, "Yeah." It's like, where have I been the last however many years? And I was like, not looking after my body and drinking too much and smoking too much, So it's quite phenomenal, and it's a little bit of it's so there's these things with a lot of really busy people sort of go, "Well, I can't be bothered. It's too hard," and it's totally true. Like they're busy. I get it. Like it's a lot. They got 4 kids. They've got household of 2 parents and 2 jobs, or 1 parent and 1 job, whatever their thing is. Yes, I agree with them. So buying single ingredients or taking leftovers and putting in a Tupperware container, that's not too difficult, I don't think. If they're on the run, they can have an apple, they can have an orange, they can have maybe not an orange when you're driving, they can have a peach, they can have leftovers. And that sort of is simplifying things a little bit, because the difficulty is we spend our life being too busy, or we've got too much on, or we're doing all these things. And so the hardest job for us as sort of like food people to give out our teachings is to make sure they're simple for them, that they don't have to think too much, that they don't have to go buy anything, and that we know that we're there to give them a little something to help them along.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I know you use the language around sustainability a lot. Like I don't hear you say the word vegan very often. Can you talk about just how you like to portray your message, and how and why you choose the language you do, and the work you do, and how you kind of navigate that?
Yeah, I never say vegan, because I feel, I mean, and I'm sure you'll have some listeners there who will sort of dislike me for saying this, but I feel it. Well, maybe they might agree. I think it's a bit of a dirty word. It's kind of this euphemism treadmill, which is, we used to say toilet, and then toilet became a bad word, so we said water closet, and water closet became a bad word, so we said lavatory, and then lavatory became a bad word, so we went back to toilet. So we've got this euphemism treadmill, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
so veganism is just this dirty word for people who don't like
Yeah.
plant-based eating and don't like vegans, right? And they're just like, you're vegan, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, although I love everything about it, and I am,
Yes.
my message is really about sustainable eating. And so, if I can produce really good food through sustainability, then the byproduct is them eating more plants.
Yes.
So suck shit, idiots. This one's sorry, I can't swear. There's this one thing that this person commented on one of my things. I was talking about sustainability and climate change, and she's like, "Climate change is an absolute farce. It's bullshit. It's not a thing. It's all government's propaganda." And I was like, okay, fair enough. Like, totally fair enough. That's absolutely your opinion, and I respect that. I don't love that. I respect it. Do I respect it? I'm kind to it. Anyway, so what I said though was, but in a reply, I said, do you believe there's a lot of plastic and a lot of problems with plastic in the oceans and litter and lining our gutters and what it's doing with our marine life? Do you think there's a problem there? Absolutely. It's awful what all this plastic's doing with our and all this rubbish is doing. I was like, great. So how about, instead of focusing on climate change as a whole, as a word, let's get you focusing on plastic problems. And let's get you focusing on recycling and not throwing things and picking up rubbish when you're walking down the street. Would you be cool with that? Absolutely. Yeah. I'm going to start that. I'm going to get a community together. We'll get that going. Brilliant.
Beautiful.
So she thinks she's not helping the climate because she thinks it's bullshit. But in reality, what she's doing is the best thing you possibly can do. So the thing about this is that you can visually see the plastic being a problem, but you can't see the climate being a problem because it's not, it's funny. Let's not go down the whole religious side of things. Anyway, and then, so on my side, it goes down to like, all right, well, veganism, it's the same sort of thing. But if I can show them that this food is really, really good, then that gets them not eating meat just once for that day, when these people eat meat 3 times a day or twice a day. And so you have someone going, well, actually, maybe we can do plants, 1 meal a day instead of 3 meals or 2 meals a day. And that's a win for me.
Yes.
I'm not here to scream, and some people are, and go for them. Good on them. That's a real hard thing to do, and it takes a lot of energy, and all power to them. But I can't see a positive change screaming at someone, and I can see a positive change when I get someone smiling with really good food once a day. And if I get someone who's at my restaurant, I had butchers coming over, and their parents bought them, their wives bought them there for a joke. Of course, it was their wives, the metal butchers, but anyway, we'll move that on. That's another story. Burly old sort of butchery men coming in. Oh, don't eat meat. Where's your steakhouse? And I said, look, in truth, there's a steakhouse right below us. If this doesn't feed you, if this doesn't fill you up, then I will personally buy you one. And of course, their portions went through the roof, and this they went through, and they couldn't walk out the door, and they loved it. And I don't need to convert a butcher; it's not going to happen. It's just not possible. It's not possible to convert a person who lives in Thailand in the country who lives off locally raised meat. It's just not. But what it is possible is to get people who we know in our community, in our area, who have the privilege to be able to eat plants, and is it a cultural sort of difference in some ways, and be like, okay, you're not eating 3 times a day meat, you're eating once a day meat, or you've decided to change completely, or you're going flexitarian. All these things are wins for me.
Yes.
So that's why I never say veganism when I say sustainability. Yeah.
Well, they're wins for you.
Anyone's thoughts, yeah.
No. And we've got quite a broad range of in our audience of people that are still very, just vegan curious, and
yeah, cool.
Or plant curious, whatever we want to call it. I think
whatever you call it. Totally
yeah,
fine.
it doesn't matter. It does matter what we call it, but I'm saying yes, the the truth is, the way things are going, and what the research does show is that we're making a bigger difference, helping a bigger population move in that direction than trying to convert people and say, you better go vegan all the way or nothing. Like that's not working. Right. It's not happening. And so I think it's not just a win
as well.
In separation, and what we need to do is unite and find our common ground. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. So it's not just a win for you, it's a win for everyone.
Well, that's right. And I think there's the vegans who are probably not as extreme as those, but who are pushing it that way. And then there's me who's nibbling at the sides.
Mhm.
And so, I nibble at the sides, and I'm the person in the back mustering the sheep. And then there's the big vegan sort of voices at the front, sort of leading people
Yeah.
along and showing where to go. And I'm sort of like helping them follow, and we'll all catch up. We'll get there.
Yes.
But if we don't have everyone touching on all the sides, you know what I mean?
It's
It's
1000%.
it's just not going to work, right? So we're just
Right.
creating a big old circle of love.
Well, yeah, and we're meeting people where they are, and people are
Yeah,
at different
that's right.
places. So we've got people meeting people at different places because that's where
Yeah,
they are,
that's
and
right.
we're all a big happy family.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Until we watch the news, and then we're all
Until we watch the
then we're
news. So
all
we just don't watch the
depressed.
news too much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah, we gotta stay away. And yeah, I mean, the more I'm watching, I could go down a rabbit hole. Going down a rabbit hole. I'm trying to work. I'm working on my language, making sure like instead of killing two birds with one stone, feeding two birds with one scone.
Oh,
Like
I
that
like
one.
that.
That's a good
Yeah,
one.
that's a good one.
Going down the
Oh, so
rabbit hole, is that negative? I don't think that doesn't really seem negative.
no, I don't think so. Going down rabbit
Okay.
is just it's where they live too, so you're fine. But
Right.
but it's also sort of, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But that's what you and I mean, that's what podcasts are all about, really, isn't it?
Right.
It's kind of like finding where the darkness is taking us, and where we just like, oh God, I have no idea where I am. Okay, back out we come.
Yeah.
Hi
Back out we
everyone.
come. Let's go to India. Can we go to India?
That's Yes, we can. Let's go to India. Let's go
Can
to
we
India.
can we touch on that as we
Yeah,
start to pull things together? I would love to hear more about India. Where did this tea fascination come from, and what do we not
yeah.
know about tea and Sri Lanka? And what a
Mm.
incredible video that you posted on
What kind of trying to climb the tree, or the one with me, the
I
most
don't know
recent
if I
one?
saw the tree one. I was
Oh,
looking at
I
the
saw me trying to climb a coconut tree and then getting leeches all over my feet. Uh,
see that one.
yeah, no.
Was that in
Oh,
India?
that's cool. It was in Sri Lanka, that one. Yeah.
Oh,
So the
that
India
was. I
side,
missed that
we'll
part.
start with India.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of restaurants opening in India. They were meant to open blah, blah, this year, last year. No, this year-ish, but early, and then it's just bit of a tough one to get back over there. So next year, up in the north, in a place called Varanasi, one of the oldest, I mean, said to be the oldest city in one of the oldest cities in the world, continuously running, and Jaipur, which is about, if you fly, because we do, and I wouldn't drive that road, that'd be too scary for me. It's about 2 hours drive west, so it's into Rajasthan region, which is desertal, and pretty amazing. Like, it's such a beautiful space. So they're a great hotel group. They're a very small hotel group, family run, family owned, but are, are all vegan or vegetarian anyway, religiously vegetarian, but also vegan. And the beautiful part about this is I only found this out when I got there. Anyway, so just quickly, the restaurants are great. They're vegan. They're focusing on plant-based thing. The hotel has 3 vegan restaurants in it. One from like a Southeast Asian one. It does classic Indian vegan stuff, and then it got mine. And then the other place over there is a bit of a joint one because it's right near Delhi, and Delhi are travelers, and it's a wedding venue and rah rah. So that's vegan, mine is, and then they do a joint restaurant which is vegetarian. And they're really beautiful. But the one I'm in Rajasthan, one of the owners, the auntie, she's animal activist, vegan, right, full on. And every year, for an example, is Indians, or the religion, and excuse my ignorance here, but the religious side of India, they sacrifice a goat to the gods, whatever, and then they cook and eat whatever. I'm sorry, anyone who's Indian over there who's telling me I'm wrong. But as far as I know, let's just stick with the fact they sacrifice a goat. Let's just stick with that, because otherwise I'm delving into an area that I don't know so well. So she will drive around in a giant bus to where they sacrifice these goats, and buy these goats from the people. And now the community will always take the money over sacrificing a goat. And so then she'll put the goats in the bus, and then she will drive around to the next one, and she'll stack this bus full of goats, like packed full of goats. And then she takes them out to a sanctuary where she has a huge bit of land, and lets them go free.
Mm.
And sort of lets them live their last days out in this sanctuary.
Can I interview her?
It's amazing,
Oh
woman. And the crazy one was, this is a great story actually, is that an elephant, domesticated, very bollocks word, domesticated elephant, had killed someone because it's a wild animal, and it probably got in its space. And so, of course, the classic human thing to do is to kill the animal because it killed someone, which just infuriates me because it's been heard of with sharks in Australia and all these sorts of things. It's like, you're swimming in their water, you idiot. Like, that's the risk. This is the risk. You cannot hurt. Anyway, rant short and over. So she heard about this and went over to the people and bought the elephant and took the elephant back to the hotel. So this hotel has this giant plot of land. I mean, it's quite a rare little hotel. It was one of the earliest hotels in Jaipur. So it's huge amounts of land. And she basically brought the elephant to the hotel, and she had the elephant in the hotel, not in physically, in the grounds of the hotel, whilst they try to work out what to do with it.
Wow.
But they stopped the elephant being killed and whatever. They brought it to the hotel. The elephant just walked around the hotel, the grounds of the hotel. Everyone was very, staying away from it and all this stuff. I'm sure they kept it sort of away in its own little section.
Yeah.
And then they took it out to the sanctuary, and now the elephant lives out in the sanctuary with the goats.
Wow.
It's amazing. And the hotel is completely animal friendly. So they open the doors up to the animals. But the problem was the animals started to realize they could really get fed. So it got a whole bunch of dogs in there. So they started feeding them outside. And it's actually a really beautiful 5-star hotel. So it makes it even more amazing,
wow.
right? So it's a really top end hotel. It's not like a little throwaway sort of, hotel. So it's beautiful. It's a stunning place. They've got a peacock and goose sanctuary where they've saved all these geese. And they've got an emu there, which is really funny. It's an Australian native animal, an emu. They've got the largest emu. They've got emu farms everywhere in India. Apparently, I don't know why, but they do. So she saves them from being killed and puts them in a little thing, and that's in the hotel. So you can look out your room, and there's these geese in this beautiful little frolicking through this beautiful like foresty area, and drinking away, and then they get fed and rah rah. It's quite phenomenal. So that really sat beautifully with me. It was so good. So I got there, I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like, it's not just me, it's everyone here.
Yes. Oh,
and that's really quite nice. So that's India.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I want to go.
Yeah, well, I'll be back over this year. I'll let you know. If you feel like a trip, it's pretty crazy, but it's good.
Yes. Yeah. I am called more and more to take a trip to India, to be honest.
Yeah.
With
it's stunning.
Yeah. Fabulous.
Well, you'll say you're vegan, which is totally easy over there, especially in the north, because they use a lot of mustard oil and vegetable oil, as opposed to they do use a lot of ghee. I don't know if you're familiar with ghee, but ghee. The funny thing is like, oh, you're vegan. Oh, okay, cool. So fish is okay. You're like, no fish at all. I was like, okay, right. Chicken, you allowed to? No, vegan, no animals at all. Okay, right. But yogurt, you can have yogurt and butter. Right. Yes, you know what I mean. So
it's hard. Yes, India, yogurt, butter, like those are just like when I went to Spain. I mean, this was many years ago, but I was like vegan, vegetarian, and they were like, but there's pork in there because pork is in everything. That doesn't count. And I was like, no, that counts.
Vegan, right?
That counts.
It's like the word associates from what it really is. Like the sausage, and that's why it's not actually pork.
No, of course.
But I mean, look, for those who are going to travel to India who are hardcore vegans, you can easily eat vegan, but you must. I would be aware that if you're in the more northern areas, which is like Rajasthan way, you might find yourself eating ghee because they fry food in ghee. Which is clarified butter for those who don't know. So it's butter that they've taken the milk solids off and it fries at a really high temperature. So there is a possibility that happens. So if you're really hardcore vegan, just be wary. And if you're okay with accidentally doing it, that wasn't your fault, then you'll be fine. Just apologize and continue on, or just ask all the questions where you need to ask. But a place where you should go, and I think this is a good segue because I think we're going that way anyway, is Sri Lanka.
Yes, please.
So
let's talk about Sri Lanka.
That's
how do you say it correctly?
Sri Lanka, yeah.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
That's great for the vegans because they're really into coconut oil. Everything's coconut oil. So as opposed to India, which is ghee and butter, this is coconut oil. They have some of the best seafood you'll ever find. Oh, excuse me, still morning. Oh.
Where's your coffee?
I didn't cook.
And do you drink mushroom coffee? Because I am so into mushroom coffee.
Yes, I do. I really do. And I've just found it. I just found it recently. So I have all that sort of thing. And my concentration is immense. It's so wonderful. I really, really, really love it. So I'm going to continue that going on for a while. And I work for a company called Fable, which I think you can get in America.
Yeah.
It's shiitake mushroom stems that have been torn up and dried, and they've done a bit of a process with them, but it's like meat.
Ah,
But because the stems of the shiitakes are quite dense, so you got this
yeah.
wonderful meaty texture. It's fantastic.
Like a
Um,
jerky kind of thing, or
yeah, but it's
you
more
just
like
you
a
cook
mince.
them.
Yeah, you
Okay.
cook them. It's more
Okay.
like I wouldn't even say mince. It's like a pulled meat, but it's been
Okay.
set. And so you can make beautiful pies out of it. You can make bolognese out of it. You can make lasagnas. You can do anything you want, tacos and that stuff. So
Mm,
Fable, it is in America, I'm pretty sure. So
Fable.
if you
Okay.
anyone out there, Fable, Fable mushrooms, delicious. Anyway, back to sugar. So I feel as though I'm talking a lot, and people are sort of going, "Where's more questions?" So I'll make this a little
No,
quicker.
no. This it's not about the questions. It's about
Okay.
you. So
Yeah, but
this
your
is great.
dulcet
Great.
tones is a lot better than my droning freaking, headache of a sound. My voice gives me a headache sometimes. Isn't that sad? Uh, oh, life. Anyway, so Sri Lanka is phenomenal. So a long time ago, back in my days, which we skipped forward, which I actually don't think is a bad thing because I worked in London, ran a bar there called Kulukule, and then got invited to go to Sri Lanka to study tea with a company called Bowls, which is it's a Dutch gin, and they do liqueurs as well. Um, Anyway, so I went to Sri Lanka with a company called Dilmah, and I don't know if Dilmah's in America. I don't think it's really big there, but it's one of the biggest tea companies around the world in Australia, and they're all about climate justice, sustainability, giving back to the community. Their tea fields, they only bring in people from the street. They pay them a full wage, and I know people would be like, "Oh, slavery in tea fields." They pay them a proper wage. They build a doctor's general practitioning building inside the tea field, so everyone who works for them gets free hospital,
Mm,
which is just unheard of. And their children get free hospital, and their husbands get free hospital. They've got three culinary schools for underprivileged children. They've got two regular schools for kids with disabilities to learn and be taught whatever it is that their level of intelligence or their level can go to. Um, they've got elephant rehabilitation center, which takes in elephants that have been abused and poached and brings them back into the wild and puts them back into their national. They've got, like, I'm telling you, they've got it all. They've got this thing called the Forgotten Food. I'm sorry, Dilma and Dylan, I forgot the name of it. Forgotten Food Project, which is finding all of the indigenous or Sri Lankan ingredients that have just fallen by the wayside over time because of westernization. And they find these back and they're bringing them back to the world. And so they're producing this cinnamon because the best cinnamon in the world comes from Ceylon, from Sri Lanka. They've got things like I think it's mugwort, which is like it's called gotchagullah over there, which is like this beautiful leafy green, almost like a spinach that's really good for your brain function. All these sorts of things. So they're bringing this all to the forefront. It's fantastic, and vegan producers food over there is fantastic as well. Right. So that was that background. So I went over there again recently because through all my work of like I want to stick with sustainability side of things. I'm obsessed with tea, and we've become really close friends with these people, and love them dearly. So I went over there and filmed a series called the Lost Ingredients Lost Ingredients Lab. There we go. When I slow down, I can remember it. And we went and researched all these places that have just doing permaculture or growing. This woman called Lakmini. She has a farm that grows gochugala organically, which is again quite unusual in this world. And she only employs women and women who have I know this sounds strange, but a husband and a kid, and she sort of sits at home and does nothing. And like me, he's like, well, why are you sitting at home doing nothing when you can have two incomes? I mean, wouldn't that be a great idea? And of course it is, because everyone should be allowed to work. It's just like this idea that this system has made us think that women sit at home and look after the children, which is, by the way, more than a full time job and should be paid as a bloody full time job plus overtime plus holiday pay. You know what I mean? This is just ridiculous. Anyway, that's another story. So she brings all these women in and pays them a secondary wage. And so the husband obviously sometimes doesn't have a job either because that's just the way men are. They're lazy and shit sometimes, a lot of the time. And so now the mum has to raise the children and also is making an amazing wage. But she also allows them to work during times when they're not at school. So the kids get dropped off at school, then the mum comes and works if they want to, and then they can leave before the school pickup is, because of course the man is not doing it as usual, and then she goes and picks it up and so that does that. So that is a really wonderful way to her to create this beautiful female community and bring them all together. So that was Sri Lanka recently, and that really opened my eyes up into the most amazing culinary divinity. They use coconut oil, so everything is basically vegan unless you're using coastal seafood. Most of the time you're eating plant-based anyway, and it's just special. It's just the most special place in the world. It's probably one of my favorite countries that I will forever live in, visit, retire in, whatever. It's just heavenly.
Where can people watch that?
So that's on their Dilma's social media side, but fly. But that was weird. But in saying that, we're filming a TV show there in February. So Hold the Line Callers, that should be out online and on Australian TV, and then around the world probably by the end of next year. And that'll be quite similar to what we did here. So focusing on sustainable produce, historical ingredients, and all that sort of stuff.
Wait. Oh, Lentil. Yeah. How's Lentil?
Lentil. Good. She's so amazing. She's such a chiller. Gosh, she's the best dog in the world.
Oh my gosh, this is the best name in the world.
Isn't it fun?
It's a fun name. I don't know what makes that so fun, but it's so fun.
Right.
Like, how did that just come to you? Was it your?
Yeah. So Melbourne and Victoria, or Melbourne itself, was the largest lockdown state in the world, right? Or city in the world, right? We did over a year of lockdowns.
Wow.
So before lockdown 2.0, I think, we were at this little coastal town, and we were trying to buy a rescue dog. We wanted a rescue dog, but over COVID, no rescue dogs were available because everyone wanted a dog over COVID, right? And I would like to say my animal is a golden retriever. If I was ever to come back as an animal, I would be probably a golden retriever, or if you were to morph me into an animal. And I always wanted a golden retriever as well. So anyway, a friend of ours sort of called up and said, hey, a friend of mine has just bought a Goldie, but the person who was going to buy his sister has pulled out. They can't afford it. Would you like it? And we really, to be fair, couldn't afford it either. But we also really would love a dog, and it was a Goldie. And so we're like, you know what? Let's just do it, and we'll work it out later on. And we are, to this day, very glad we did. And as we were saying, we were driving home that day, we were trying to spitball names. And we're like, Chippies. No, we like the name Chippies because it's George's favorite food. Chips are George's favorite food. And we're like, well, what about lentil? Yes, you. Hello. and we both just sort of paused and went quiet. And we're like, okay, we'll put that at the top of the list. Let's keep going. And nothing sort of beat it.
No, I don't think you can beat that name. And that is hard to. Wow, that's amazing that there were not rescue dogs available. Like
none.
That's amazing.
It was crazy. They were all taken because everyone wanted a dog over lockdown.
I mean, that's fantastic.
Well, it is and it isn't, because once lockdown did lift, all the people
they ended up back.
All the people that couldn't realize they couldn't get rid of it. They couldn't actually train the dog because the family or didn't work in the situation. They all. So I haven't heard. I'm sure there's someone out there with a lot more information, but I haven't heard bad things. I haven't heard the things are so full, but they're definitely back to normal. It's not like they've cleared out and stayed clear.
So adopt, everybody.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not saying adopt, but we would get another lentil any day. Tiny thing.
Oh, Simon, you are incredible. Is there anything you want to end with this?
Oh my God, we're done already. I just feel like
I know it's been like almost an hour. And I'm just trying to think, like, kind of coming from the perspective of the people listening, and they're like, okay, now what? Like, I'm so inspired. This food waste thing, this is phenomenal. The sustainability. Where can I get started to now up level where I'm at now, wherever that is?
All right, we'll jump on. I mean, always social media is always the leading part. So it's just Simon Toohey is me. I'm on Instagram. I'm just trying to work out TikTok, but I just cannot. I mean, it's fine. It's just, it's the same videos on Instagram as it is on TikTok. But I've also got a little channel which I'm jumping back on called Sustainable Earth Network. And that is a network that focuses on all the things basically we've been talking about the last hour. Give or take. And so we're working with local farmers now and producers and Victorian government and stuff trying to jump towards a sustainable plant-based food world without screaming it down people's throats. So if you like a soft listening, a bit more of a laugh, a little bit more of a fun time, so Simon Toohey's Me, you'll find my day-to-day recipes where I'm in the kitchen in our beautiful ugly house that we bought that is so ugly that we could only do it. The camera can only face this one way because everything else is atrocious. So come and have a laugh and watch some recipes and get inspired. Or hopefully over the coming year, Sustainable Earth Network will be back up and running. We've got 11,000 followers, I think, on that, and that will bring some more in-depth, more insight into producers, farmers, tourism, and recipes like that. So that hopefully will be a little bit more all-encompassing. But Freshly Picked, which is my TV show, that's on Channel 10, but that is on National Geographic channel, so Foxtel, or I don't know what you call it over there, Star, whatever your channels are. It is in America, but it's all over the world at the moment, 140 countries, I think. So you find yourself waking up at 6 a.m. or something like that to go to the airport for your 7 o'clock flight, and it's on then, or you go to the doctors and it's on the GP. You know, it's in the doctor's waiting room. There's always a TV with my show on for some random reason. They put on Channel 10. And every weekend I get messages from friends saying, oh, I'm at the hospital, or I'm at the doctor's, or I'm at the dentist, and here's you. I'm like, bloody hell.
How funny. Anyway. Oh my gosh.
That's me in a nutshell, in a 1 hour nutshell.
Well, you might, just speaking of that, just funny little thought. My friend traveled to India. So next time you're in India, you might see me in an ab infomercial. Okay.
Oh, no
my infomercials from like 10, 15 years ago, me doing like silly little, like stupid ab machine. Like they're ridiculous. They're stupid. Anyway, but you might see me on an ab infomercial, but
let's
amazing.
Before we finish up as well, the world of sustainability is, does it sustain you financially as well? And sometimes it's a yes. Sometimes you have to bite the bad bullet and say, look, I need to pay rent, buy food, whatever. I did an episode the other day, which was 99 cents. I bought 99 cents was to buy Brussels sprouts in a packet, and it had polystyrene base. And I was like, is it sustainable to buy this? Do I buy it for 99 cents because it's cheap and it's going to go to landfill? But is it bad because it's plastic? And sometimes you've just got to go, you know what, at this stage of my time, with this amount of income and this raising expenses of everything we're living for, I'm actually going to take that role. And I know this was ages ago, 15 years ago, but in fairness, at that time, you probably wanted it. You probably needed it. It was worth your work. So anyway, big ups to you.
Thank you. Oh, Simon, you're just so much fun to talk to, and thank you for everything you're doing for people, for animals, for the planet. I appreciate you. Thanks for being on.
Thanks so much, and hopefully we get to hang out in person sometime.
Yes, I hope so too. All right.